Welcome back to the last lesson of Module 6, that is Lesson 6.4. Before we begin the lesson 6.4, let's take a quick look at the previous three lessons that we have talked about in Module 6, that is the relevance of IKS in the modern world. So 6.1 lesson had talked about environment, wisdom, and sustainable practices. The second had talked about the holistic health system, which had Ayurveda and yoga. Then in 6.3, we talked about the NEP 2020 and its integration into the Indian knowledge system. Now, when we had talked about these three previous lessons, we see that the impact of all these various subjects on our holistic growth, on our holistic knowledge, and as a society which gets affected by the knowledge system that we carry, the skill system that we carry, and how the new education policy enables the older Indian knowledge system of ancient India to be incorporated so functionally and fruitfully into the contemporary world of education, which is very, very important because we need to keep grounded, we need to remain connected to our older ways of life because they were much healthier and much saner way of living, having their own practical aspect, having their own logic, having a belief system which was proven, experiential learning. Now, with lesson 6.4, we are going to be talking about innovation rooted in traditional knowledge. So, the National Education Policy, NEP 2020, in India places a strong emphasis on fostering innovation rooted in traditional knowledge, or the IKS. This is a significant shift from previous policies, recognizing that India's ancient wisdom holds immense potential for addressing contemporary challenges and driving future advancements. So when we say that it holds immense potential, means it was valid according to systems and applications then, and it is also valid for systems and applications now, means nothing has changed. The problems have remained the same, and the solution also has to be the same then. It is how that we understand it, it is how that we logically apply it. Innovation rooted in traditional knowledge, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach. Now, NEP 2020 advocates for breaking down rigid subject boundaries. IKS, by its very nature, is interdisciplinary. Example, Ayurveda combines medicine, botany, and philosophy. So, nothing at that point in time was a standalone subject. Everything was connected, and it still is connected. It is just that we need to look at the perspective and take a change in our perspective. That is what the NEP is driving us to do. This approach encourages students and researchers to explore how traditional knowledge from different fields can inform and integrate with modern disciplines to create novel solutions. For instance, studying Indian metallurgical techniques could inspire new sustainable material science innovations. Now, that is very practical if you come to think of it, that whatever metallurgical techniques that ancient India had so much of research work then also, so much of experiential learning then also. And after the experience and the research, there was logic which was there in the system that was brought about then. So, anything which has logic, we are able to think about it, we are able to understand it, and it is only then that we are able to apply it practically. Emphasis on experiential learning. Now, we have been talking in modules about experiential learning, and that is the reason why any science subject, for that matter, has got an entailing experiment. The reason being that anything which is practically seen, which is practically tested, is easier to learn, it is easier to remember, and it is easier to apply later on. Anything which is superficially learned, superficially taken or understood will have less of a practical implication. So the policy promotes hands-on experiential learning. This allows students to engage directly with traditional crafts, agricultural practices, or artistic forms, understanding the inherent wisdom and design principles that can be adapted for modern innovation. Learning traditional pottery techniques, for example, might lead to innovations in sustainable manufacturing or material sciences. Promoting research and documentation. So the NEP 2020 explicitly calls for strengthening research and documentation of the Indian knowledge system. The Indian Knowledge System Division at AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, established in October 2020, is a prime example of this. Now, here they put every practical aspect into learning outcomes. So, it is easy when you associate practicality with learning, it is easy to understand logically and then practice it equitably. The NEP 2020 explicitly calls for strengthening research and documentation of IKS, the Indian Knowledge System, IKS division of AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, established in October 2020, is a prime example of this. Now, here they have done something which is very good. They have logic for what they are teaching and the skill set that they are providing according to the logic. When we have logic, when we have experiential learning, we are able to apply it in a much better way and take a good learning outcome from it. Role of IKS division at AICTE in innovation. Funding research. It provides grants and opportunities for scholars to undertake research projects on various aspects of Indian knowledge system, including its application in science, in engineering, in technology, in health, and in management. This directly fuels innovation. Promoting interdisciplinary studies. It encourages research that bridge IKS with modern disciplines, seeking Indian ways of solving problems. Documentation and dissemination. By systematically documenting traditional knowledge, it makes this vast repository accessible to researchers, entrepreneurs, and innovators who can then draw inspiration and develop new products or processes. Now, even in earlier times, they believed in documentation. Thank God for the documentation that we have a referral there that we can refer back to, that it was written, that there's proof enough that the theme or the text, whatever, it existed, the idea existed. Capacity building. It works on training faculty and researchers to understand and leverage IKS for innovation. Now, don't you feel good when the teacher who is teaching you is aware himself or herself, is sufficiently knowledgeable to teach you, to answer your queries, to handle your problems? Connecting with industry. The ultimate goal is to facilitate the traditional translation of IKS based research into tangible innovations with societal and economic impact. Anything which is tangible, what you can see, what you can use, is more effective than intangible. Coming back to vocational education and skill development, the practical, plausible way of learning. The policy emphasizes vocational education and the revitalization of traditional crafts and skills. This directly links traditional knowledge with practical application and entrepreneurship. Traditional artisans often possess deep tacit knowledge about materials, processes, and designs that can be a source of innovative products or sustainable practices. Now, an artisan may not be very educated, but yes, will be knowledgeable about his own field, about his own area of work. Local context and sustainable solutions. IKS is often deeply rooted in local, ecological, and social contexts. The national education policy encourages learning from these context specific traditional solutions to develop sustainable and appropriate innovations. This is particularly relevant for challenges in agriculture, water management, and local resource utilization. And agriculture, sustainability, water management, resource management, we have been doing from the various modules that we've already talked about, and how important are they, and how plausible application that they have. Protection of traditional knowledge and biopiracy prevention. While promoting innovation, the NEP also implicitly supports the protection of traditional knowledge from misuse or biopiracy. Initiatives like the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library (TKDL) in India serves to document and protect IKS, ensuring that innovations derived from its respective community rights and prior art. Now, nothing is the knowledge or the learning is not complete if we have a experiential learning. So, hence the example. So, example of innovation rooted in traditional knowledge. The potential for innovation rooted in IKS is vast, and many such examples already exist or are emerging. How emerging? Because it is a continuous process, learning is a continuous process, innovation is a continuous process. Sustainable agriculture and food systems. Revival of traditional crop varieties, identifying and cultivating drought resistant or pest resistant indigenous crops for food security and resilience. So, when we talk about indigenous crops, we do need to understand that they were pure, they were healthy, they were good to consume, unlike the pesticide infected food that we've been eating now. Natural farming techniques. Innovations in organic farming, polyculture, and pest management inspired by ancient agricultural wisdom. Example, the Panchgavya, the Jivamrita. So, Panchgavya we have already talked in detail in the previous modules. Traditional food preservation. Developing modern, scalable methods of food preservation based on ancient Indian techniques. Example, fermentation, dry pickling. So these were healthy ways of food preservation. Instead of using a chemical to preserve your food, how about fermenting and dry pickling? Healthcare and wellness. Ayurvedic formulations and modern drug discovery, scientific validation and standardization of Ayurvedic herbal formulations for new drug development addressing diseases like diabetes, cancer, or inflammatory conditions as well. Yoga and mental health. Developing evidence based therapeutic interventions for stress, for anxiety, and depression using yoga and meditation techniques. In the world that we live today, we do know that so many people are affected by mental health disorders rather than physical disorders. So, the mental health disorders basically are a core or the beginning to your physical ill health. Traditional surgical instruments, studying ancient surgical texts like Sushruta Samhita to glean insights from modern medical device design. Talking about water management and the environment yet again, rejuvenation of traditional water bodies, modern engineering combined with the principles of ancient step wells, Baulis, we did see a picture in previous modules, johars, and tanks for effective rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharge. So the replenishing has to happen. Anything which is consumed has to be filled back. Suppose you have a water bottle. When you empty it out, you do fill it back. So the water that we consume out of our ecology has to be filled back as well. Bioremediation. Using indigenous plants or microbial knowledge for wastewater treatment or soil purification. So bioremediation is a healthy way of living, natural way of living. Sustainable architecture. Designing eco-friendly buildings inspired by the Vastu Shastra principles, focusing on natural ventilation, passive cooling, and local materials. In the previous modules, we did talk about this school in Rajasthan where they have brought about this huge change where they have built the school in such a way that there's natural cooling, there is natural light in the school. Materials, science, and engineering. Ancient metallurgy, research into the composition and processes of wood steel, we talked about that in trading, or Delhi iron pillar, which show advanced metallurgical knowledge to inspire new alloys of manufacturing techniques. Natural dyes and textiles, developing sustainable and non toxic dyes and textile processes based on traditional Indian methods. Computational and mathematical sciences, Sanskrit and AI, artificial intelligence. We all are aware, we have been using it extensively. Exploring the structure, nature of Sanskrit grammar for natural language processing and artificial intelligence development. Ancient Indian mathematics, applying algorithms and concepts from texts like the Lilavati or the Sulbha Sutra in modern computational problems or geometry. With that, we finish lesson 6.4 and we also finish learning about the relevance of the Indian knowledge system, which has lots of tradition, lots of culture, lots of logic, lots of applicability in the modern world. So learning never stops. Thank you.